Good evening, folks. Welcome to Monday Night Big Footy Tigercast live show. Hope everyone's doing well from wherever you are watching. Not exactly the result we were after on the weekend, but it's an up and down season. We know what to expect, albeit it's still frustrating to watch, but it is what it is, and I'm sure we'll delve into that a bit more as we get through the night. EJ, but welcome, mate. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. It was great to be aware of when the podcast was starting tonight, so I didn't get stitched up. And with all the Richmond nuffies out there saying sack Hopper, sack Uze, whatever, they accidentally said sack CB and sack Grock, so they're not here.
Yeah, and sack Tig, sack everyone. I've actually just realised I've chopped off Charlie Cameron's legs in this image behind me. That's how good I'm going. What a rush job that was. But no, Tiggs is sitting out for tonight. His head's playing up. Grock's busy with work, and CB's getting a tan. So we'll have to. We might see. One of them might pop in later. Who knows? We'll see how we go. But that's all right. We will carry on as we go. Before we get stuck into it, I do want to say happy birthday to my dad. It's his birthday tomorrow, so I assume he's going to be listening to this while driving the truck. So happy birthday, Dad. Hope you have a great day. Thank you for tuning in as always.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, on April Fool's Day. So we've gotten some mileage out of that over the years, which is good. But that actually on that, for whatever you do, folks, keep an eye out for just be on alert tomorrow for weird things that are posted on Twitter, on Facebook. Don't be had. I've tried to think of something myself to post, but I thought I won't do that to people. I didn't want to try and stooge anyone just in case it went too far. Oh yes, Shea Bolton did look good. But seriously, before we get into the footy stuff, obviously the sad news came through today, EJ, about Andrew Krakouer sadly passing away at the age of 42 from a suspected heart attack. Terrible news when you hear of anyone that we've obviously grown up watching, for many years. He was drafted at pick 41 in the 2000 national draft, played 102 games for us, kicked 102 goals, and then obviously went to Collingwood for 35 games and 50 goals. It's just so sad, and our thoughts go out to his family and friends, obviously. What a great player he was, though. I mean, he was such a slight, wiry frame when he got to the club, and I was looking up some highlights earlier today, and he had a 5-goal haul against Essendon in 2003. He was kicking it from set shots from the boundary. He was roving. He was doing it all. He was, for a long time, the perfect partner for Richo up there, wasn't he, with the way he read the ball off the pack. He had just an elite football brain.
Yeah, and Richo said this afternoon, he had the softest hands. So, he was clean. He had good hops for someone his size, obviously, taking mark of the year. And obviously he had his troubles, which he worked through and came back to football, which is fantastic, and seemed to be in a really good spot. And apparently he was in the garden, so actually doing some work in the garden. So it's very sad. It's very young. Thoughts, of course, go out to the family. There's the people that are left behind that have to pick up, the pieces of the rest of his family as well. So really tough time. And thoughts go out to all those friends, family, and former players that played with him that are obviously hurting today as well.
Yeah, exactly right. Obviously seen plenty of tributes flowing from players from both Collingwood and Richmond alike. So obviously a much-loved player for both clubs. And look, it says it was a suspected heart attack, but I suppose it's just a timely reminder to make sure that everyone, male and female, are keeping on top of health checks and things like that. Because you never know what you might be able to prevent down the track potentially. So make sure everyone's looking after themselves in that sense as well. But thoughts and feelings again to his family and loved ones.
It was really sad. It was really sad. I was on Twitter and I found out that had happened. And one of the first things that popped up was him saying, "R.I.P. Spud. Thanks for giving me my first opportunity," and a photo of them together. And it's just, life is short. Tell your family and friends you love them. Give them a hug. That's about all you can really say.
Yeah, exactly right. So, look, I'm sure we'll start seeing plenty of highlights of him over the coming days. So, we'll obviously all sit back and enjoy those and think of and remember all the great memories we had of him. Rest in peace, Cracks. He was a wonderful player. So we'll push on with the beginning of the show. As we do most weeks, we always start with this bad boy, the North Melbourne death ride chart, as we We had a bit of progress this week, EJ. We've gone up a level here. So North Melbourne lost to the Adelaide Crows, who are looking very, very good, mind you. It's kind of hard to gauge how good they are or how bad North were until they start playing some better sides between them. But North Melbourne currently sit on 2 losses. They're 10th on the ladder, which gives us draft pick number 9. So we currently have 4 and 9 in our back pockets if the draft was to begin tomorrow. So that's a nice little update. We've progressed ever so slightly there, EJ. Hopefully we can keep tracking in that right areas.
Yeah, I watched that game. I think that North are going to win a few more games than what we thought they were. So let's death ride them as best we can, but I think we might be a little bit disappointed. Did
Jerry go down? I don't want to wish injury, but did he have an injury by the end of it? I heard someone say that he was looking a bit sore.
He looked like he'd maybe done a hammy or something and was really ginger, but then warmed back up and played all right. There's actually one incident from that game which I think is worth mentioning is when Rochelle got the knee into the ribs and the umpire stopped the game because he was in a lot of pain and whatever. And the Channel 7 commentators, BT and Nick Rewalt, were saying, oh, come on, you've got to be tougher than that. You know, you can't just stop the game for everything. Otherwise, we'll be stopping the game for this, that, and the other. He got subbed out immediately. And even after the fact that they figured out that he was actually legitimately injured, Rewalt's like, I stand by my decision that they shouldn't have stopped the game. And I'm thinking, wow, that's unbelievable. And there's actually another sneaky thing from that game was BT said in the commentary, welcome here to the Adelaide, the only broadcast team here at the ground. He actually mentioned, yes,
he went there.
Which was awesome.
Wow. Okay, that's a bit of a swipe, isn't it?
It is. It is
a bizarre comment though to not say to stop the game for players injured. Like, you know, I remember how annoyed all of us were when the game wasn't stopped when Prestia was laying motionless on the ground after Stewart cleaned him up. When players are actually in danger and the ball's nearby, you've got to stop the game. You can't not stop it. It's a safety thing. It's nothing else but a safety thing.
As RFC says, though, you can actually see where he's coming from. The players do have the ability to milk it.
True.
But also, as we know, sometimes, like with Petrarca, when he went down last year, you just don't know how serious the injury is sometimes. Petrarca was able to get off under his own steam. Dusty got off under his own steam, but was obviously really hurt, and they were both out for extended periods. Yes.
I think...
Go on.
I think the easiest way to determine it is if it's collision-based, you're best to err on the side of caution. If it's someone just going down with cramp, play on. You can deal with that. But if there's been body-on-body impact at high velocity, you just don't take the risk. Just let them get the right attention.
The replays clearly showed the knee going into the ribs, and they replayed it over and over, and yet the two clown commentators are still sitting there saying, oh, he was winded. Anyway.
All right, let's get stuck into the game itself. So St Kilda, unfortunately, did a bit of a number on us. 20 goals, 15, 135, defeated Richmond 7-11, 53 by 82 points. Seth Campbell kicked 3 goals. K-Mac, Lynch, Brown and Bauer with 1 each. It was really a tale of two halves, wasn't it, EJ? The first half, look, I know we didn't score too well in the first quarter, but we were still competitive. And then we peaked it back quite a bit in the second quarter to actually go into halftime 8 points behind. I thought we were playing not too bad, but yeah, that second half, we conceded 6 goals, 5 in the third quarter to our 1 goal, 3. And then in the fourth quarter, we conceded 8 goals, 4 to our 1 goal, 4. So 2 goals in the second half clearly isn't good enough and not up to AFL standard, which Uze said in the press conference. We need to rectify that. But let's talk about the first half first. What did you like? What were you seeing that you're happy with? And how did you feel about it?
Well, at the ground, I've got to say, that wasn't exactly the most enthralling contest from a standard point of view in the first half. I thought, we did a really good job of keeping our system in place, K-Mac in the first half seemed to do a pretty good job on McRae. Again, Lawler, I think they're doing a pretty good job of protecting Lawler. He spent a lot of time in the forward line through the match and didn't attend a lot of centre bounces. But when he does inject himself into the game, it's clean, it's classy. He's a beautiful kick. And I see a lot of people were calling for Miller's head. In the first quarter, I was on the opposite side to the coaches' boxes, so the camera's facing on that wing. Miller made 3 unbelievable spoils. It was a really good close-up view of what his closing speed was.
Yeah.
Blight was serviceable again. Trainer was good again. There was a lot of really good positive performances in the first half. And, of course, Campbell, it goes without saying.
For sure.
But, the second half, there were a couple of things that stood out to me. There were some negatives as well, which I think we'll go into a little bit later on player-wise. But they're not career-ending negatives. They were just observations that I made. I actually made notes at the ground because I'm a nerd.
I love it.
What did you think?
Yeah, look, the first half, it was, I thought, so after the first half, this is what kind of bugs me a bit, is when people post-game say they can't see the game style, they can't see any game plan. It's like, well, you can, because it was there in the first half. So what we saw, we get a bit more understanding of what Uze's trying to have him execute. And when it comes off, it looks really, really good, and it tends to work. We're not going to see it for too long, unfortunately, at this stage of the piece. But you can see it progressing, and you've got to love it when Lawler's got the ball in hand. He was probably one of maybe on his own even to take on those 45-degree kicks into the middle of the ground, which opened the game up. There was maybe 3 or 4 plays that looked into the middle but didn't pull the trigger on the kick. He pulled the trigger 3 or 4 times, or maybe 2 or 3 times, but hit every single one of them, and the game opened up straight away. Now, we didn't necessarily always capitalize on that, which is a bit of a shame, but the fact he's brave enough in his third game to take those kicks on is a really, really encouraging sign. The next challenge for me is, how do we get the ball in his hands more to have that happen more often? And someone on Twitter pitched a really interesting idea to me, and it might not be very popular, but instead of playing him at half forward when he's not in the midfield, why not maybe at half back with the game in front of him and get the ball in his hands distributing off half back to take those kicks? Not the worst idea, because the way we're kicking the ball to him in the forward line, shithouse, to all of our forwards, not just him. So while primarily be wanting to play in the midfield, I understand that. I'm not taking away from that. The reality is he's not going to be in the centre bounce for all of the game yet. So when he's not there, do we maybe flip ends of the field to try and get him more ball use, because he's actually a weapon with a kick he's got?
Oh, I think we're actually protecting him. This has been his first pre-season, because he's been playing cricket in previous seasons or whatever. I think we're just protecting him physically as much as anything. So half back, it might be too taxing on him at this stage. I think that's why he's been camped forward and sparingly used in the centre. I think I texted you during the game about him taking the 45 kick. That was right underneath me. And there were 3 or 4 different players at different points in time. Most didn't, and he just took it straight away. And I've got a piece that I've written about decision-making and commitment, which I'll go into a bit later, but he's got it. Trainer's got it. They've got that. Right, it's instant. It's almost like they don't think about it. They just pull the trigger. Yeah, I agree. Yep. They just pull the trigger, and there's a few players that it's self-doubt or confidence or not being willing to make the decision out of fear. I'll just open up what I wrote.
Yeah, go for it.
So, and I'm not saying to kick this bloke out of the side, because Sonsi played on that wing on that side, and Tresize did as well. It wasn't effort. Look, I love when Sonsi went back with the flight and got absolutely smashed in that contest. So it's not effort or work rate or any of that. It's confidence or decision making, and I think those two things are linked, right? There's a hesitation in Sonsi's game, and in Tresize's game, and a little bit with Ross on the weekend that I don't see when Sonsy's in the twos, right? Coaches won't hold a turnover against you, but they will hold the manner in which you turn it over against you. When you double think or when you hesitate, the action isn't as decisive when you actually do pull the trigger. So Lawler and Trainer, they pull the trigger, they kick through it. It's got penetration. It's got speed and velocity. It gets there soon.
They kick with conviction.
Conviction, right? When you don't use conviction, the ball gets there half a second later, and either that's half a second less for your teammate to act, or it's a turnover.
Yeah.
So it's not a criticism as such. It's a observation, and I think we need to back Sonsie in, and of course I think we're going to talk about something else about him a little bit later on, but I think we need to back it in and give him a chance to pick up the speed and to have a chance to make those decisions. And if it doesn't happen after a few weeks, well, then we've got to maybe move on.
Yeah, you can definitely, I get your point. You can definitely see the difference in how those group of 4 players kick the ball. Yeah, they're just lethal, aren't they, Lawler and Trainer? And Tom Brown, to an extent as well, is very, very good with his passing too. Just punishes the ball. So I think a lot of it's a confidence thing, isn't it? Really, it's just about believing that you belong, believing that you're good enough to pull off those dangerous kicks without worrying that you're going to turn it over. I think, unfortunately, for players like Sonsie and even maybe Trezise, that they're probably worried about that their next kick could be their last. So they just play it safe all the time, whereas they're not prepared to take the risk in fear of being dropped. And it might be a valid thought, but they need to somehow wipe that or be given the confidence by the coaching staff to say, hey, no matter what, take your risky kicks, do what you've got to do, you're safe for 4 weeks, whatever it might look like.
So
because we're not going to see the best of it otherwise.
Uze's been talking about mental mastery. I think this part of the game is a lot of it is the mental mastery he's talking about.
Yeah,
it's mastering yourself and your confidence and your decision making, and getting yourself to the position where you flow and you're free enough. Gee, I sound like a self-help guru. But when you are free enough to have it happen like that, instead of think, oh, I disagree. I don't think Trezise is very good on the weekend. But anyway, yeah. So
and to Sam's point, and which is kind of ties into your point, that Sonsie's an elite kick in the VFL because he's playing to perform to get promoted. But then when he gets promoted, he's not playing to keep getting better. He's playing to hold his spot, which is too safe.
See, and this is where I think that, again, this mental mastery comes into it, right? And it's a lack of confidence, or it's a fear, or whatever. Remember back in when did we make the run to the finals? 2022, and we played up in Brisbane, and Sonsie played that 9-game stretch. He was really good.
Yeah, he
was really good, and there wasn't any of the hesitation or the doubt there. So I know it's there, and I really hope it works.
And while we're on the topic of Sonsie, and I'm a big supporter of Sonsie, I know you are as well. I'm actually frustrated for him because yet again, he had no centre bounce attendances in this game. Now, I can understand in the first half, if he's not in your A-grade midfield that you're trying to win the game and things like that, I get it, I understand. But when the game's cooked, like midway through the third quarter, the game is done, realistically. So you've got the latter half of that quarter and then the whole fourth quarter. Try something else. Try something different. And I'm going to be doing a video later this week about centre bounce attendances. But the crux of it is, in the 3 games we've played so far this year, we have had 7 players. I'm excluding ruckman from this. This is just midfielders. We've had 7 midfielders attend centre bounces, and one of them was Ryan Mantle, who went twice. So let's call it 6 midfielders across 3 games is our entire spread for centre bounce attendances across 79 odd. And Tim Taranto has attended all but 4 centre bounces, and Hopper's not far behind. So I just feel like that in the latter half of the game when it's done, throw the magnets around, give Seth Campbell a run, give Sonsie a go where you know he's performed week in, week out at the VFL. actually give him a crack at it for a quarter. And I know the game's dead, but you might see what he's got. He might show something and go, oh, okay, like what Blight did. They threw him around the week before and they thought, oh, shit, we found something here. Why not do it with Sonsie?
I agree. I think we need to change the mix-up. I think I saw Seth in there once or twice on the weekend, and it looked good. And it gave us a different dynamic and a bit of speed. My only counterpoint to that, because I want to see him given a go in the guts because he does it at VFL level. And as I think I said last week, I think the defensive side is why he doesn't get given the go, is because we're bad defensively in the centre. But the coaches have a reason for not putting him in the centre. I don't know what it is, but Carosella is not an idiot, right? He's not an idiot. He knows what he's doing. So we need to find out the why.
And like, let's say hypothetically it is because of the defensive side of the game, which may be a valid argument, and the tackle numbers probably suggest it could play a part in it. My argument would then be, well, in that second half, we weren't doing anything defensively anyway, so would we have really lost anything else extra by putting him in there when no one else was doing it to start with? That's why I think at the start of the game, fair enough, when the game's hot, you're trying to win, like go your A team or whatever you want to call it. No. But if that's the reason why, I don't think we'd be losing too much else.
No, I agree. I agree with everything you've said. I would love to see him in there. I want to see him have a go. I want to see Seth in. I want to see Seth in there. You know, I want to see Sonsie in there. You know, I do. But I think the reasoning is they have a reason why they're not putting him in there, and I'll bet you bottom dollar he knows what it is too. He's been. Oh,
you would hope so. You would truly hope so.
Yeah.
But we all know what's going to happen. He'll go back to the VFL at some point in the next 3 weeks, get another 35 touches and 10 clearances, and come back and play half forward again. Rinse and repeat. It's frustrating.
Yep. Oh, look, there are just some players like that too. Maybe it is that it's just that maybe it's just the gap is too big, the bridge is too far. I don't think it is, because I've seen him play at AFL level. He's played 25 games now, so he's And
it's still we're still going to go on. You go.
Oh yeah, just RFC Centre brought up a point about 5 to 9 or whatever about Tom Brown getting on his bike and working harder. Giving his opponent too much leg rope. I agree. I watched the first half. He was better in the second half, much better in the second half. But in the first half, he was just that 1 to 2 yards too far off his man and could not make up. He doesn't have the closing speed that like a Miller's got. So he's giving more leg rope than what he can cover. I don't think that I disagree with the fact that some defensive efforts leave a lot to be desired. I think it's positioning, which is or switching off. But the effort when he actually went, I thought was there, but he just gave his opponent so much room and he got torched in the first half. I actually really can't believe how close we were at halftime, given his opponent was just off him. He does really need to tighten up. Yes, when he gets the ball, he's very effective for us. Like Seth, would like to see a few more possessions. 10 touches a week isn't enough. But when he gets it, he does pull the trigger like Trainer.
Yeah.
But defensively, he does need to tighten up. When you've got Trainer doing the right thing, Broad doing the right thing, Vlossen doing the right thing, you can't have someone letting the side down, because
that's right.
The chain breaks. And with St Kilda on the weekend, they were able to pull us apart. And how many times did they pull us apart and then go straight through the middle?
Right. Yeah. Too many times. Too many times. It makes sense. You can't have a weak chain.
Yeah. And then so when one part of the chain breaks, everything else is trying to, and you can't.
Yeah.
Doesn't stay together.
And that's kind of what happened in the second half a bit too. And to Uze's credit, he obviously put his hand up and admitted this, with the movement of Blight to go do ruck work, destabilizes the back line, and then it's just a domino effect, and they were able to just walk it in it just caused utter chaos. And just on that, for those who did watch or didn't watch the Uze press conference, whether you agree with his game style at the moment or not, or whatever it might be, you can't not respect the fact that he was able to put his hand up publicly and own some mistakes that he made in the box as well. I think that's a really good sign of leadership and understanding when things have gone right and things have gone wrong, because too many times it feels like it's been swept under the carpet in the past. So credit to him for putting his hand up for it. And we also need to remember that he's still young in the coaching caper and still learning as well. So he's going to make mistakes and he's going to learn from it, as will the players. So I think the end result is that Blight might need to play forward in order to then ruck, if that's the path we go down. So we'll have to we'll see how that plays out. But we'll get to a couple of other plays before we get to the VFL. I thought Nankervis EJ bounced back really well. Still didn't have any tackles, which I still find an interesting stat. But 21 disposals, 35 hit outs, 7 clearances. You could really tell that he was busting his ass. And Rowan Marshall, like we said last week, is an exceptional ruckman. And credit to Marshall for doing what a good ruckman should do by pushing forward and trying to make him accountable, given, I suppose, the slower legs of Nankervis, without that being rude. It's just his age, and it is what it is. But yeah, I thought Nank really responded well after the week before against Port.
I thought Nank was fantastic. I mean, Marshall is basically a younger version of Nank.
Yeah, you know? They're both brutal human beings, aren't they? It was good to watch.
Oh, it was awesome. It was awesome. And I think from a pure effort perspective for 4 quarters, I thought that Nank was our best player. You know, and he can't be in, you know, he said he didn't have enough tackles, but he got a stack of clearances. You can't be everything to everyone. And yeah,
it's true.
Yeah. It's what do we got here? 15 pressure acts. So 2 intercept positions.
I'm probably just used to seeing a tackle in the stat column, I guess. But he's done a heap of other work. Like I don't want to at all discredit the other work that he did. He's done a mountain of work.
Yeah.
What about Tim Taranto? This one might be a little bit more polarizing. He had 20 disposals, 8 clearances. I think he had a few tackles and pressure acts as well. Obviously,
he only had 1 tackle.
1 tackle. What was the pressure acts? Was he one of the top ones? Was it he and Dow that were up the top?
He was equal top with Jack Ross with 21 pressure acts.
Yeah, so he is doing the defensive stuff. He obviously copped a bit of a tag.
8 tackles. He only had 1 turnover. My mistake.
Yeah. So defensively,
Jack Ross had 1 million turnovers.
Did he? I didn't look at that. So defensively, it feels like Nankervis definitely that Taranto got back to where he wanted to be. It was just offensively he couldn't get going, and that's probably more credit to St Kilda and putting the time into him. I don't think that's a Taranto issue. I mean, all you got to do is look at Lachie Neale for Brisbane Lions, who's been shut down 2 games now this year, who is a dual Brownlow medalist. So shit happens. If someone tags you, it is what it is. But 20 disposals and the fact he was working better defensively, I think, is an improvement. Well, it is an improvement on the week before.
Oh, he worked really hard. I mean, as RFC said, Windhager, I really rate him. I think he's a really good defensive player, and yeah, it was a tough night for Timmy, but he stuck at it, you know. And Hopper had a tough night with a few errors where he tried to take it on and got caught holding ball, but again had a crack, stuck at it. It was a much better effort from those 2 guys per the previous week. Hopper was okay.
It was. It definitely was. And look, unfortunately, the last half was just ordinary by everyone involved, I think. What about the last thing I want to talk about, and I don't want this to be too negative because I'm mindful of their age, but we sometimes have to call it for what it is. Armstrong and Bauer, unfortunately, I think went missing quite a lot, probably a little bit too much. Like I think it's okay to have quiet games, given their age and inexperience. I'm just now not sure if maybe Armstrong's getting a bit tired, because it's a big jump going from coach league to AFL football. Like, I don't want to diminish that whatsoever. And not to mention he's in a role where he's got to be physical as well. So he's going to be wrecked.
Yeah.
I'm starting to wonder if we are maybe looking at 4-week blocks. Yeah. I wouldn't be shocked if Armstrong gets a rest this week. Go back to the VFL, find some form, kick a few goals, take some grabs, feel good about yourself again, and give someone, whether it's Sims or Jonty Fall, a go. But unfortunately, when you got Armstrong and Bauer both having down games, it really leaves Lynch nowhere to hide, and he's pretty much got to take the full brunt of everything, which is a little bit too difficult to do.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we really need to rotate the kids, and this is where I'm probably putting 2 points into one here, going back to the older guys working their asses off. We're setting it up to get the games into the kids, and the older guys are doing it a lot. Taranto didn't have much help with the tag. He was getting brutalised. That's allowing around him things to happen. It's harder to play a key position player at a younger age, and I don't even think Lawler is going to play every game this year.
Agree.
Right. So I'm really keen for the tall forwards to rotate, because there is a couple. No, 100% true. The service wasn't 50, and I think we were only about 40 something inside 50s as well. It wasn't a lot. So 100%. So go back to the VFL. We rate you. We know what you've done well. Go back and work on this 1, 2, 3 things in the VFL, and know that you'll be back in 3 weeks' time or 4 weeks' time when the next block comes around, and you'll get less pressure and more time and space to achieve a couple of things. Confidence comes back, come back in. You've got the old bodies around you to support you, and away we go again.
Yeah, and I don't think anyone would be under the illusion that they're going to get drafted and play 24 games or 22 games, whatever it is. It's just going to be peaks and troughs. And I do want to say, even though I've just sort of mentioned the Bower may need a rest, in that, I think it might have been the first quarter, took a really good, nice lead-up mark on the wing and got it inside 50 for a shot on goal, which is what we want to see more of in the future. It's just not happening on a consistent basis. I just think we need to mix it up, get some fresh legs in there, and see what happens. But with that, we'll roll into the VFL update, because it's probably a timely discussion. For those who didn't watch the VFL or tried to watch the VFL but it kept freezing, as I hope you all got to see the last 5 or 10 minutes, because an absolute thriller. The Tigers won after the siren. It was tied up. Didn't know how long was left. It wasn't a very big scoring quarter. And Joel Garner took a clutch mark inside 50 from just a skied kick from one of the Sandringham players. And all he had to do was score from 45 metres directly in front. And he nailed it. But we had a couple of chances before that to win. Campbell Gray almost slotted a beautiful goal from 55 that just missed. And I think it might have been Massimo Razzo missed one as well. But the final score was 11-14-80. Richmond to Sandringham, 11-8-74. McAuliffe, CB wanted to say his man. He wanted me to wind you up with that. His man, McAuliffe, 28 disposals, 7 tackles, 9 clearances. And he was actually taken off after somewhere in the third quarter to be a layover for the AFL game. Campbell Gray, 13 disposals, 3 marks, 5 tackles, and almost got the winning goal on the run. Jonty Fall, 13 disposals, 4 marks, 1 tackle. Tom Sims, 7 disposals, 4 marks, 1 goal, 15 hitouts, 3 clearances. Jasper Alga, 12 disposals, 3 marks, 1 clearance, 2 goals. And they were probably the main highlights from the VFL in terms of AFL listed players. So good win. Your man has got to come in, Kane McAuliffe. He's dominated 2 weeks in a row now. He's got to play.
There you go. I was in the car driving down to Melbourne town, so I didn't see it, and it wasn't on the radio, so I didn't realise that he'd been taken off in the third quarter. That makes it.
And to RFC's point, I'm scanning the ground frantically, like, where's McAuliffe? Get him in the guts. Didn't realise he was off the ground altogether because he was dominating so much that it would have been handy to have him out there. So, yeah, it was good to win without them out there. It was very good.
I think he has to come in. We have to pick on form. We have to reward. You're probably going to see MJ come in as well. On the proviso that the suspension is upheld.
I reckon Alga will come in. I reckon if we're talking about bodies of work and rewarding form, I reckon Alga's ahead of him at the moment.
Yeah, this thing about protecting the kids around you, if we're going to have a kid as a key forward, a kid in Lawler, what have I done here? I I've blocked out my screen. If we're going to have that many kids, I don't think we can't overload on kids. We cannot overload on kids.
That's a good point too. Yeah, I think that's a reasonable point. And I think Greystoke makes a good point too, that Campbell Gray could be a chance as well. Now, to tie back into what I said before about Blight playing forward, the only way this works is if Blight plays forward so he can then relief ruck. So then that solves Uze's issues of not disrupting the back line, is if Campbell Gray comes into play as a defender, which he has been playing for all of this year so far.
Brisbane have got 3 key forwards. How about we leave Blight down back and bring in Sims?
Sims, big Simsy. Yeah, he could do. 7 disposals, 4 marks a goal, 15 hit-outs, 3 clearances. And to be fair, Sims could be the one that catapults his name up the list because he can ruck as well. I think that's a genuine point of difference. I know Samson Ryan's there, and it would ring severe alarm bells for him if that does happen, it must be said.
I think the alarm bells are already ringing for Samson.
Yeah, no, I think they might have been. But, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what we go selection-wise. Now, the other player who's not yet an AFL player, Massimo Razzo, if I've said that correctly, he's a player. He is a genuine electrifying player. And the unfortunate thing is, at this moment in time, as we sit right now, we do not have a pick or a spot to get him in the mid-season draft. Now, I'm not really all about trying to wrap players up, but internal conversations must be happening around this. Now, I think back to Sean Grigg and the selflessness he displayed to allow us to bring him. Was that the Pickett year? Was that year?
Yes. Pickett was the selection that we got.
For Grigg. So the selflessness around Grigg's decision to do that. And I'm not going to put forward any players' names, but I think we know where it might sit. We need to find a way to get this kid in. Now, I see a lot of comments about Sam Davidson missing out. I do want to say that whilst it is frustrating, that his form, I don't think, didn't kick on until after the mid-season draft. So we weren't really in a spot to take him there. We could have. We did leave a pick on the table. And then in the national draft, we simply didn't have the picks to take him. We just didn't have a pick in the right spot. So I'm not too dirty on that, but we need to find a way to get Razzo. We can't have something similar happen again and someone else take him.
Yeah. There's a couple of interesting suggestions down the side.
Hang on, I'm scrolling. I'm catching up. Here we go.
Yeah.
Which ones?
Funky Cold Kalina.
That's a great username.
No. Sorry, that's what I call Mate Kalina. I call him Funky Cold Kalina.
Oh, right. Okay. I thought someone's username.
No. It would be a good username.
It would
be. Yeah, and obviously, there's a highly decorated tiger that her name has come up down the side a few times.
Yeah, so I'm interested to see what we do there. And I don't think Samson's gone at year's end. He's just signed a 3-year contract. I don't think he will be. We'll see how that plays out. But no, Joel Garner is not on the senior list. No. Good clutch mark.
He opens the bowling, though.
Yeah, I know, for the West Indies. Yeah, it's double-coded player.
Yeah. Look, I think I have a strong suspicion that there will be some list movement and that he does get elevated. I can understand, as you like with Davison. Also, Davison wasn't really a high need from a list profile perspective. Durham hurts, specifically now in the midfield mix that we've got. Durham hurts a lot. So, if we think that it's the right thing, we can't really afford to let another one go.
And the other interesting thing is we've obviously got, 6 players coming back from ACL injuries. None of them are in a position to go into long-term injury because they're all coming back mid-season, which is great. But it kind of just cancels out another possible angle we could have played. But anyway, we'll see what plays out there. We'll quickly have a look at the I list. I won't say the word like I did off-air. Sam Banks, concussion test, so he could be a chance to come back in potentially. Josh Smiley, hamstring test. Now, I don't think we will see Josh Smiley playing AFL this week. If you listen to what Uze's said all along, that he will play a game of VFL before he plays AFL. And as frustrating as it might be, it makes sense and it's logical because he has not played a game of football in about 6 months. So you've got to get the kid to have a run, get some run in the league, some actual game time before bringing him into the VFL. So I feel like he'll be an absolute lock for the VFL, which is, I think it's at, is it 11 o'clock, 11:30 at Punt Road, which will be jam-packed if he's playing, I can assure you. Liam Fawcett, concussion, 1 to 2 weeks. He copped a bit of a knock. I think he had a busted nose, broken nose as well. So he'll miss a couple of games. Hugo Ralphsmith is a test. I don't know whether he would come straight back into AFL. I kind of feel like that. My thought is that he and Smiley might get 2.5, 3/4 at VFL level, with maybe the view to get him into AFL the following week. Dion Prestia, 2 to 4 weeks. I'll go.
I would like to see Smiley play 2 games in the VFL.
2 games.
Yeah. Exactly to your point that he hasn't played a game for 6 months. You'd hate for him to
play a half and then 3/4 or something, like stagger it.
Yes. And I think it's this week. Is this week round 4?
Yes, for AFL. Yep.
Okay. And then you've got gather round. So the week after gather round is when I would, if he gets through 2 weeks in the VFL, the week after gather round is when I would bring him in.
Yeah, I think there's definitely logic and reason behind that. And he's going to have a long career. So I know we're all impatient. I'm impatient too, but we have to just trust the process, as cliche as that sounds. Juddy Clark, the first of the ACL crew to have a week timeline stipulated, 3 to 6 weeks. So he's back into his first full week of contact training with no contact hat on. So he will be absolutely jumping out of his skin, ready to go at training. Look, I know 3 to 6 weeks is a broad window, but hopefully we can see him in the VFL in the coming weeks. I think he would be a nice one to slot on the wing, I reckon, EJ.
Oh, yeah, pace to burn, can run forever. That we got torched by the Saints pace and foot skills on the weekend. It'd be fantastic to have some pure speed out wide. It'd be great.
Like the addition of Hugo and a Juddy Clark instantly gives us more speed around the ball, doesn't it? It would make a huge difference.
Yep. So, in trial of the halfback flank, I don't know. He was a high half forward, wasn't he, before he did his knee?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep, Juddy Clark was.
Yep. Oh, look.
And then the rest of the ACL crew just got Lafau, Tyler Young, ACLs, TBC, and obviously, who else was there? There's Gibcus and Taj Houghton, who will be a bit later again. But that is the eye reports. And it's starting to look a bit more promising, EJ. We're starting to see a bit more comeback, which will make things very interesting come selection time, no doubt.
I just want to see a timeline for Taj Houghton.
Oh, gosh, I know. You see it and feel how impatient we are with Smiley. I reckon it's going to elevate another 2 or 3 levels with Taj Houghton.
Yeah,
because you're hearing people in the club already saying he could have been the best player of the draft. Even his own draftee, like Sam Lawler, said he could have been the best player of the draft if he didn't go down. It's scary in a good way. So looking forward to seeing how he progresses. All right, well, we'll take a look at the upcoming Brisbane game. It's going to be a really interesting one. Again, I think we need to obviously go into games like this with managed and tempered expectations. Brisbane, obviously, a very, very strong and powerful unit, reigning premiers for a reason. I know that Joe Danaher no longer there, but they're still a bloody good side after they got a nice win on the weekend. Let's talk about the potential changes first, EJ. Obviously, Mansell is, at this moment, rubbed out for 3 weeks, which we could probably do an entire show on if we wanted to. Quickly, do you think the 3 weeks will stand?
Yes.
And who is going to come in for him?
Morris.
So you go on Morris. I'm going Jasper. Both, I can see why you would do either, to be honest. But I do take your point about there having too much youth. I do get that. Now, does Sam Banks come straight back in on the back of clearing concussion protocol?
Probably.
Who would he come in for?
Probably Steely Green or Caleb Smith.
So if we sort of talk about quickly the players that are probably on the chopping block, if we're wanting to use that as a term, Caleb Smith, I think, is going to go back to the VFL simply because they want him to have a full game after 2 games as sub. That tends to be the pattern. Steely Green, could be one.
Actually, no. Tresize. Yeah.
And there's Bauer and Armstrong as well that could be potentially.
Yeah, if Armstrong goes out, I think Bauer will keep his spot because he's that couple of years older and has whatever. Bauer will keep his spot. He wasn't great, but he wasn't horrible. But Caleb Smith, when he came on, wasn't bad. He had a real crack.
I agree. And he's actually another player who's got really good foot skills too.
Yeah. But so if Banks comes in, I'd say Tresize. RFC reckons stiff on Tresize. I thought his decision making was at the lower end of the team on the weekend, and it was really noticeable, the hesitation. So I think Banks is now at that stage where he doesn't hesitate. Again, like we keep saying, the ability to pull the trigger is a good thing. I'm not writing off Tresize long term, but I just think that he needs a bit of a freshen up.
So I reckon that Armstrong will go out to get some quality touches in the VFL. As to who comes in, if Sims maybe ends up being logical to keep Blight down back number 1 against their taller forwards, and then Sims can also chop out in ruck, so then we're not disrupting the back line. Jonty Falls the other one, but I'm not sure if Jonty can go in ruck. So Sims could actually be leading the race if it's not Samson Ryan.
Yeah. Did someone say earlier on in the comments that Uze said that if Blight is going to chop out in the ruck, he'll be playing forward?
That's right. So I think it comes down to the decision there that do they want to run with Blight rucking, playing as a forward, and then if they do that, then I reckon Campbell Gray comes in to play defence.
Yeah.
Or they leave Blight in defence and bring in Tom Sims to play forward ruck in place of Harry Armstrong. I think they're the 2 possible outcomes.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting. I think there will be 3 changes this week.
I think so. Or I can't agree with Dow on the edge just because he's applying pressure when a lot of players aren't. He's been consistently a shining light in applying pressure, and I don't think he's done a lot wrong. He hasn't done much wrong.
Yeah, his defensive numbers are better than a lot of the midfielders. I'd be very surprised if he was dropped.
Yeah, there'll come a time, of course, but now how are we going to go about putting a score on the board? And should K-Mac tag someone? I feel like he tags for like a half and then doesn't do it anymore, which seems a bit confusing.
Pretty good on McRae in the first half, I thought.
He did. I agree. And I felt like it stopped.
Can I just do a quick 30-second exercise in tempering expectations?
Yeah.
Right. And this goes in with how we're going to match up and all that sort of stuff. Let's go back to 20. We've scorched earth. We've got more kids than ever. We go back to 2010, right? First year at Hardwick, when we had a Cochin that had been in the system for 2 or 3 years, a Rewalt that had been in the system for 2 or 3 years, Delidio had been in for 5 years, Rance had been in for 2 or 3. There was kilometres on the clock with these guys, and we still lost the first 9 games of the season in a rebuild.
Yep.
We lost by 56, 72, 55, 55, 39, 108, 54 points, or 3 points, sorry, I was at that game, 35, 47, and then we won by 47 points. We're sticking in games for a half and then we're falling away. This is the reality. This is double the scorched earth than what we were back in 2010. We are going to get pumped, and we're going to get pumped more than once. What we're looking for is a half a game to turn into 2.5 quarters, and 2.5 quarters to turn into 3 quarters, and the losses to come down from 12 and 13 goals to 10 goals to 8 goals to 6 goals. And every now and then we'll have a performance where it clicks and we might win a game or 2. But let's just calm it down and stop calling for people to be sacked and for players to never wear the jumper again and all that sort of shit. Having said that, how are we going to beat Brisbane? We're not.
Fair enough. It's to the point. No, okay. No, look,
Look,
it's. I think it's about how long can we prolong the damage for before it kicks in. That's the aim of the game. Unfortunately, whether we all like it or not, that's just where it's at. And I think a starting point of that, someone wrote it in the chat, K-Mac, you got to sit him on Lachie Neale. Lachie Neale's shown that if he gets tagged, he struggles to find the ball. And he is an amazing player. So if I'm Uze, I'm putting Camden on Lachie Neale for 4 quarters. None of this 2-quarter stuff, 4 quarters, because in some ways I feel like that's what kept us in the Carlton game in the comeback, was we were still quelling Cripps' influence, whereas we weren't doing that against Port Adelaide or St Kilda for a full 4 quarters. So, yeah, I would sit him on, Lachie Neale. And then it's just, like you said, we might see a quarter and a half, 2 quarters, and it's kind of where we're at. But I'd love to see us try and hold firm in the first quarter again. You want to see the fight from the get-go. And
yes.
Let's not concede 5, 6, 7 goals in the first quarter. Let's fight tooth and nail until we can't fight anymore. And whatever happens from there happens, as we know.
Really good point. Really good point that it was, even though the second half was disappointing, it was good to be involved, invested, and not blown out of the water early. I'd much rather be strong at the start of the game and try and extend that out. That was enjoyable to be there for that.
I think so. I think you're right. You would rather see the progression being, we have 2 amazing quarters at the start, we unfortunately fade after halftime, turning into 2 great quarters, then half a good third quarter. And look, honestly, it might take 2 years to get out of that pattern. Like, it's not a quick process. And even though you keep seeing this stat about St Kilda's average age, ours is a bit more skewed because of the amount of very old players that we've got running around still. And let's not forget that within our age, we've got a lot of players that have played less than 10 games, a lot of players with less than 20 games. And whereas their core groups played, that 30, 40, 50 games where they start to actually gel and get better. And they're going to be a good size. I'm not at all taking away from St Kilda.
Yep. So
I will get to this. Please remind me at the end. I want to get to this.
Right. So if we look at it, if we disregard our forward line, as in matchups and stuff like that, if we look at how are we going to beat Brisbane, it's how are we going to match up on them in the middle and down back.
Yeah.
Right. Unfortunately, we've got to learn how to defend, and then we'll progress to how to score from there. But so how do we minimise and mitigate the damage up forward early? Who goes to Cameron? Who goes to Skeletor? Who goes to Logan Morris? Right. I'd probably put Trainer on Morris, both young. Yep. Hipwood is very mobile.
He could be one for Blight, couldn't he?
Yeah. Is Blight quick enough?
Yeah, I reckon we've got no choice but to try. I think is he a better matchup than Miller is probably the other question.
Actually, I think Miller's a good matchup because Miller's got really good closing speed. I think Miller's a good matchup. Yep. And
I don't think Hipwood will be overly physical, like in terms of pushing someone out the way. So that kind of helps Miller in that sense as well. It's just going to be about finding those small wins, isn't it? And you just want to see those small improvements.
It'd be good for whoever's on Charlie Cameron to hold him to 1 or 2. Whoever's on Zach Bailey to hold him to 1 or 2. Just have little wins around the ground, and hopefully it all adds up to us staying in the game for longer. Yeah,
exactly right. All right, well, what's the tip including margin for this one? And then we'll get into a couple other topics quickly before we finish.
Lions by 68 points.
Yeah, I'll say Lions by 50. It could get ugly, but that doesn't change the fact that we're going to be there screaming our lungs out for the Tigers no matter what. Because as Mark said, we've got to show them the support as well. Interesting one that came through from Solar. Obviously, we aren't watching the TV at the moment, but apparently it was just on Fox. Fox 4 teams. Oh, sorry, on Foxtel that 4 teams, Richmond included, are looking at Zach Butters because he could turn his head to leave this year because of Ken's end of season departure and the Powers downfall. Interesting. I personally haven't heard anything concrete about it. We've obviously all heard that he might be wanting to leave. I've always felt that it would be a hard sell to get him across just because of his age profile versus where we're at. I don't know if it aligns because he won't have the same impact he would have at like an Essendon or a Hawthorn or something like that. Financially and draft pick wise or whatever, we'd be the perfect choice for a lot of players because we can afford it. I'm just not sure if his age bracket fits. And that's why I like to compare to, say, Harley Reid, for example, which I know will cost a lot more. But if we're looking at an age profile, Harley Reid's, 19, turning 20. So he blends in with the group we've already got coming through, whereas Butters is 26, turning 27, somewhere around that mark.
I agree with you 100%. And I just saw Sol's follow-up. It was Sam McClure, so take it with a grain of salt.
No, right, don't worry about it then, Sol. That's not a shot at you, Sol. You know that. Sam McClure, Jesus, you could have led with that part at least. Oh, my gosh. It's interesting. Again, similar to Harley Reid. If he is wanting to leave, you'd probably want to ask the question. I just don't know if it's the right fit age-wise. It'd be lovely to have him. I'm not sure we'd get the most out of it, though.
I love him as a footballer.
Is he 24? Apologies, I've made him seem old.
I thought he was older than that. He's 24. Is he 25 this year? Will he be 26 next year? If he's 26 next year, I'd still say, as much as I'd love him, it's just a little bit too far along.
Dan, I've been banging on that drum for a while, my friend. Ed Richards is the one that I'd go after. But again, he probably actually falls into the same boat as Butters, where he probably doesn't actually help us long-term. But short-term, he adds speed. So maybe I'm a little bit blinded by that.
I just want to get Butters for the South Park meme potential.
Yeah. All right. With that said, it's now time. Oh, hang on. I haven't got my media thing going. Wait. I've got to turn the volume up too. It's now time for...
man.
Oh, it's just gone, man.
Come on, man.
Come on, man. Jeez, the first time he played, just dudded me. My goodness.
Look, it'll be short and sweet this week. First of all,
do you want me to put the leaderboard up if there's no change?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep. All right, we were going to elevate Goodwin back up from 3.
We will do that. Yeah, we'll swap that. Yeah, good call.
Richmond supporters, look, I'm as frustrated as anyone that the inconsistency with the Mansell decision and the fact that 2 or 3 other people should have been suspended if they had have done the right thing when it happened to Lawler against the West Coast. But be upset with the AFL. Don't be upset with the suspension because we need to stamp it out of the game. But can we not be like the other delusional fan bases and talk about conspiracies and stitch-ups and all this sort of stuff? Just like a little bit of reality, please. It's embarrassing.
Come on, man.
Oh, I could go.
I wanted to supporters, Jesus.
I wanted to go so much harder. Some of the dribble that I saw yesterday, feeding him, I was dead set embarrassed.
No, like I tweeted, the 3 weeks is I'm okay with. It's the inconsistency before that's the shitstorm. They should have really had this ironed out in pre-season, and we wouldn't be talking about it. But
no, I don't think it's inconsistency because they consistently didn't suspend people. It's changing the mind mid-season.
True. Yeah.
Right. So they were consistent. Jinby wasn't suspended. The Giants push thing wasn't suspended. Briggs or whatever it is, that incident. It's just that they've made the example now. They should have made it straight away. They've been consistent up to now. But anyway, the Come On Man this week, I got a real chuckle out of this. Fireball Friday or Fireball Monday or whatever the bloody hell it is. I don't listen to SEN because it's just dribble. But Kane and Kingy have got a show. Now, name a journo that has more pot shots at players, mostly unnecessarily, than Kane Corns? Name one.
I think you'd struggle to find one.
Right. So the come on man this week is David King, jumping in and saying that the criticism and the vitriol aimed at Kane Corns is too much.
Come on, man.
Give me a fucking spell.
I actually think if you were to ask Kane Corns, I think he enjoys the interaction. He gives as good as he gets. And the one thing I will say, though, and I will defend him. The clown who tried to do whatever he did in person in that video, I don't think people should be trying to hang Kane Corns for getting fired up about it. Like,
all he said was, "Don't be a dickhead."
Yeah, like there's nothing really that wrong with that, to be honest. But no, Kane Corns does love to dish it out, but I think he equally accepts that he's got to cop it back the other way. So, unless you get blocked like Jones Racing, there you go. He does enjoy it, though. He does enjoy it. All right, but anyway, that is a wrap for Monday night. Yeah, we'll have to see how we go this weekend. It'll be an interesting game, but make sure we all get along to the MCG. And more importantly, if Josh Smiley's named in the VFL, get to Punt Road. It'll be a packed house, I reckon, to see him running around for the first time. So the changes will be interesting this week. We'll obviously find out a little bit more tomorrow night. Tomorrow night is the appeal, I'm guessing, for Ryan Mansell. So we'll find out more then. I'm assuming it's going to stay 3 weeks, but we'll see what happens there as well. Thursday night, I've got the live show with the Brisbane boys to talk about the game from their perspective as well. And then EJ and I post this are going to record the votes for last week's game. And yeah, there might be an interesting reaction to grab from EJ on the back of someone's votes for this week, which you may not know about yet. Travis, I thought that too, but this game is listed as Punt Road. I was the same as you. I was thinking it was in Beaconsfield, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know when games are being done there versus Beaconsfield, but it definitely says Swinburne Centre. I checked the app before, so we'll have to see what happens there. But thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. I appreciate the love and support. Make sure you like and subscribe on all the different platforms. I think we're heading towards 2,300 or 2,400 on YouTube. Facebook, we're at 2,100. On Twitter, I think we're at 2,300. We appreciate all the love and support from everybody. And stubby holders should be here soon. I got a text today that they are making their way to us shortly. I think they're in Melbourne now, which is good. So, yeah, we will have them shortly to start sending out. But, EJ, thank you for your time, mate. And thank you to everybody for tuning in. And we will see you all next Monday for the live show. Until then, go Tigers.
Go Tigers.